Okay, good morning, friends, and welcome to this webinar series organized by ISM-INDIA, which is an affiliate of ISM USA. Now, let me make very clear, the focus of this webinar is basically to strengthen your position as a great negotiator. Let me also mention that negotiation is a really hot subject when I look at the various job descriptions. Most of the job descriptions nowadays do mention negotiation skill as a desirable assets for the ability purpose around. Now, when it comes to negotiation, every one of you negotiates in your day-to-day life. It may be with your spouse, it may be with your friends, it may be with your peers, it may be with your bosses, it may be for your career advancements, and certainly for procurement activities and supply chain activities around. When it comes to procurement, the negotiation game starts from internally when you're defining the requirements. You're negotiating internally, whether the specifications are correct, whether the quantity is right. So you're starting the negotiation from internal people, from your colleagues, and later on when you're dealing with the suppliers, you're trying to negotiate the price, you're trying to negotiate the terms and conditions, you're trying to negotiate the delivery periods, you're trying to work out the payment terms, the liability clauses. It's a wide range of things goes on. Even when you're given the contract, the negotiation also is required during the contract management stage around. You're managing a contract, particularly the complex one, which has got long delivery periods. The prices may go up, delivery may fail, or the tier 2 suppliers are not able to deliver the goods around. So those situations, again, the negotiation is required. So negotiation is required starting from the very first stage when you deal with the requisitions till the contract is closed around. So in short, I want to say negotiation is in our day-to-day life. Now, keeping that factor in mind, what we are trying to do is the learning outcomes which I'm planning for today's workshop, which is the 1 hour. The ground rules are we'll cover it for 50 minutes. The last 10 minutes, I'm keeping it for question answers. You can do the chatting, you can raise your hands. The moment you raise your hands, then I will certainly unmute it and then we can discuss. We already have got some questions from many of you. So those questions, I will see if whatever I can answer today. Otherwise, I'll be sending to all of you separately. Now, the learning objective, the way we are looking around is overview of negotiations. The term negotiation is a very confused term many times. Many times we use the word haggling. Sometimes we use persuasion. Sometimes we use influence. Sometimes we use the word power. So there are a wide range of terms around. Are these negotiations? Are even the bargaining, is it a part of negotiation? So this is where I would like to clarify some of the terms around. The next one, what we'll do is, understand the importance of negotiation and approaches to negotiation. First thing, do you really need to do negotiations? Some people I know, they hate negotiation. Some people love it. Particularly those people who are in procurement and supply chain, it's a part of the job. So when you ask other people, some say, guys, I don't want to get into negotiation. So when we talk of approaches to negotiations, either we take it, okay, the pie is fixed. Either one is going to win, other one is going to lose. But the second approach could be, can we expand the pie? That's what we'll talk about. Then we're talking about the negotiation process. So negotiation has a cycle. There are phases. So we're going to talk about all those phases, starting from the very beginning with the meeting and ending at the closer stage around. And then we'll try to summarize with top 10 skills for effective negotiation. I also have one question where we could do some poll to really understand how many of you really understand the negotiation. So in short, again, the key objective today is enhance your negotiation skills. Now, coming back, as I said in the very beginning into my introductions, negotiation is a fact of life. All of us negotiates something every day. and people can use negotiation skill to do the bargaining of the price. That's what the procurement people do it. Even in your day-to-day life also you do it. Settle the differences in a dispute situations. Some dispute has happened during the contract management stage, and then they will say, guys, this is delayed because you gave me the specs very late. You changed the specification. So the whole thing has got delayed. So there's an increase in price. So those dispute could be there around. You change the contract. Initial contract was for 25 pieces. Now you say I want 30 pieces or I need only 10 pieces at the same price. Either formally or informally. Agree on a goal or an outcome to aim for. You agree for a goal and outcome to aim for, but at the end you might change it. Arrive at comfortable terms to work together or to cooperate and find a compromise of this around. So you can see all these things, what you're looking around the situations. One thing is common. There are two parties, could be more than two peoples, but there is a gap, and that gap has to be bridged. This is all about negotiation. In short, the definition given is again by Stephen Kozicki is negotiation is the art. I won't say negotiation is a fully science, neither, to some extent it's an art of reaching an agreement by resolving the differences through creativity. So creativity is a major focus in this. There might be gaps, but if we can come with some creative ideas, I'll quote you some examples, where we can say that, guys, how we can bridge it. So the definition of the negotiation come is a process where two parties with different views initially attempt to reach an agreement, and that gap could be because of price, the gap could be because of delivery, the gap could be because of qualities. Different views are there around, and that gap has to be settled down. So we want to come with the common objectives. Sometimes people say people are born negotiators. No, that concept is wrong. These skills can be developed. So good negotiation skills can mean the difference between a success and a failure. There's a word called persuasion. This is where I would like to clarify the persuasions, negotiations, bargaining, haggling. You know very well, we all Indians use haggling very often in our day-to-day shopping. So I'll clarify those terms in the next two slides around. So let me take first the persuasion. In a persuasion, there are two parties. One is trying to persuade. It's trying to make one step forward. The other is not moving. Now you're trying to persuade others. You're trying to convince others. You might be doing it at your own home also. You're doing with the parties also. Supplier also. So negotiation is a bilateral process, while persuasion is a unilateral move. Then let's see, go through the... If I look at the Indian as a negotiators, there was a good article, I'm sure many of you might have read this book, Blogging Through India, written by Robert Compton. He contained the description of one of the greatest skills the Indians bring to the table is the negotiation. And actually, I also felt it around when I was in the US for 25 years and in the Europe. We Indians have a better skills on this. And this is reason could be that India, every transaction, at least I have seen from my childhood, every transaction is negotiated. You want to buy a goods, you want to negotiate. You sit on a cab, you want to negotiate. You want to go for the restaurant bill, you want to negotiate. The list is endless. I know the things are changing now with the tier 1 cities around, but in tier 2, tier 3 cities, if you go around, negotiation is a part of the life. So it seems that the Indian culture produces an uncommon blend of innovative thinkings, business-minded aggressions, and comfort with numbers. But there is another ingredient, that is what we call as the negotiations around. So negotiations and supply chain, if I talk around, negotiation is the most important tool of the procurements. So procurement is not about haggling. Procurement is not about this. Procurement is all about negotiation, more in a formal process. So we're looking at the process. In a haggling, you are basically trying to be aggressive and you're using a different approach. Here we're trying to use a collaborative approach around. So key objective is to get the best possible long-term or short-term agreements. I don't want to cut down the other guy, just want to get the best price. I want to be ensured that there's a partnership for a longer term. And even if you're getting for negotiation, it is based on total cost of ownership, the TCO concept. So traditional negotiations is more of a game where seller sets the agenda. Half the discussion was less than honest. But now with the new concepts coming up, JIT, partnering, supplier consolidation, supplier relationship management, it leading to a different type of negotiation. Now here I'm again using the terms called bargaining, haggling. Bargaining is a subset of negotiation. Haggling is what you sometimes see around in the shops in the tier 2, tier 3 cities around. You haggle on a price. I mean, I won't say, I mean, it's again very informal type negotiation, but it's a different way. The real negotiation, if I look at the definition, is more of a navigation. So navigation means you have already set the path. You know what I want to achieve. And to do this, achieve the path around, you set your strategy, you have your tactics, and you want to reach there. Persuasion is all about telling somebody, guys, you want to persuade somebody. Persuasion is one unilateral basis. You convince somebody. And this works very well when the other one is not fully aware of the facts. You have all the facts and you're trying to convince somebody around. Now coming back to a little bit the type of mindset which needs around change. If you want to really do effectively, the word effective, if you look at the title is effective negotiation skill. So when I say effective, it means negotiation which you're leading is, the outcome is meeting your expectations. That's what I call effective. So in the past, the question would be when I'm doing particularly haggling, or even if I'm doing bargaining, I may use the wording like, what do you want? I'm trying to negotiate with somebody and say, what do you want? But the new question would be, why do you want? It's a different approach around. Similarly, when I say the question, how about we split the price? Okay, this is the price you're charging me of $40 and I can only pay you $30. So let's make it in between, just it. Then the next approach would be the more, if I look around, not the tactical negotiation, if I look at a strategic negotiation, my question would be by what criteria can we just evaluate the best answer? You try to work out the method, you work out the approach, and then you say, guys, this is the best approach around. Now, coming back to the again negotiation, as you've seen some ideas around, negotiation requires a complex skill sets. It requires strategies and tactics. So you need to understand what are the strategies, what tactics are required, how much preparation is required, and planning. Planning is a key thing for negotiation. You just can't go unprepared. You need to plan. What are your expectations? So once you've planned it and then you go with the preparations, the results will be much better. You also need a wonderful skill, face-to-face skills. So when you're doing face-to-face skill, you're raising many questions. Those questions could be reflective type. Those questions could be that you want to explore something. You really look at the body languages of the other persons around. And above all is the power part also. That power could be for many reasons around. Somebody is very knowledgeable. The two parties are sitting around discussing on ERP. The buyer side, the guy doesn't know much about ERP. The seller one knows fully about the ERP. Naturally, they have the power. So power is all about knowledge. Power is all about positions. That also counts a lot around. So all these factors counts if you want to become effective negotiation. So coming back to the now preparations. So far what I have done is to given you an overview of negotiation, what exactly it is. How does this differ from bargaining, persuasions, haggling? Those terms I've tried to clarify. Now let's come back to the issues of preparing, conducting. So increase your chances. The main purpose is you want to increase your chances of success. You want to set your realistic goals. That is also very important around. Listen is very important. One of the key skill I would call around is listening. So when you're listening to the parties from the supplier side, you're also looking at the body language. You're trying to understand and ask the right questions. Those questions could be reflective questions, could be open-ended questions. The purpose is to explore what the guy wants. Use tactics and different methods to persuade around. Now the aim of the negotiations, when I look at the aim of the negotiation is, at the end of the day, you want a desired and a durable result for including the interest of both the parties. Because if you're looking for a long-term relationship, it's not a one-time call, it's not a one-time contract, then it's a different ball game. But if you're looking for a long-term relationship, then it's a different ball game. To reach agreement efficiently and fairly using talents of all participants to solve the problems. So you have your own team, try to take them with you so that everybody has a say in that around. To develop a shared sense of satisfaction. At the end of the day, you should say, guys, okay, I achieved my purpose. Same thing should happen on the supplier side also. Now coming back to this approaches to negotiation. See, first thing is you have to make up your mind. I have come across people, some who hates negotiation, some who love it. So those who love the negotiations, and particularly people in procurement and supply chain, there's no way out. Except in public sectors. I know in the public sector, these negotiation is treated as this may lead to corruptions. So they don't encourage much, except the negotiation could be you identified a supplier, final supplier, you may negotiate, and the terms and conditions. Now the approaches are two. Either you follow the position approach or you follow the interest approach. The position means position is like a tangible. So position is that you fix up a price, guys. This is my price, I can pay for it. Other guys say this is the price I can sell you maximum. This is my lowest price. I can't go lower than this. And the buyer says this is the maximum I can pay you. You're taking your positions. While in the case of interest, so in the position the pie is fixed. In the pie is fixed means either one will lose and one will gain. While in the case of interest, it's a much bigger game. I may compromise on the price, but may I get a benefit on the quality. I may get a benefit on the terms and conditions. I may get a benefit on the payment terms. So there are various parameters. So it is not the price alone. It is not the positions of one item. There are a combination of many items around. So I look at the hidden interest around. Sometimes I want to get a business from a big company, even at a loss. I want to put my foot into the company. Once I put a foot into the company and with good relationship, possibly I'll get more business. So interest is the major issues around. In the first case, it's all about positions. So when it comes to negotiation strategies, the very thing is to understand strategies and tactics. Strategy is again a pre-formulated game plans. You set your objectives. You set your approaches. Approach could be, as I said to you, whether position approach or interest approach. But you have a game plan. You are very clear from your bosses. These are the objectives we have to achieve. The top bosses might have decided, guys, in this category, I want a reduction of 10% prices. So you have the objective very clear. So once the objective is clear to you, the game plan has been made around, and your team has been well informed about it. Now question comes, the game plan is there. But to reach the game plan, to do the actions, you need some actions. And those actions are called, we call as tactics. So tactics are the actions used to implement the strategies. So this is where we'll walk through it soon, the type of tactics and the type of strategy. Now, the strategic approach again could be some people have a very soft corner, they have a concern for relationship. All of us have got different styles. All of the human beings have different styles. Some look long term. They don't mind losing a price here and there. Let my supplier be happy. They are more worried about the relationship. But some people are worried about the concern for substance. I want to get the best price. They damn care for the relationship. So if you look at the concern for substance and the concern for relationship, we can divide the whole thing into 4 boxes, and in between you find compromise, which is in between. So in short, they become 5 approaches. So the very first approach on the left side you see on the top is the defeat. I want to be the winner at any cost. And the tactics will be very simple. This is the price I can pay you. If you're willing, please sign it, otherwise go away. No discussions. Very tough. The approach, the personality, the style is tough. I want this price, end of it. Then there's a people who are withdraw, take whatever you can get. They don't want to get into conflict. They have no concern for substance on the low side, no concern for relationship. Technically, they don't want to take any interest much, So whatever comes, they avoid any conflict. So their focus is avoid any conflicts. Then we have people who are collaborators, very innovatives. They're creatives. They say, guys, okay, we can understand your needs. We understand our objectives. How do we reach it? They try to collaborate around. And I can quote example around one of the airlines. They were placing an order for their wheels. They were not able to reach any prices for that. Then they said, guys, okay, we give you a contract for 5 years. Instead of buying one-time price, and we don't pay you for per tire basis, we pay you for the as many trips the aeroplane makes around from Delhi to Mumbai, Mumbai to Delhi, whenever it comes, we work out a rate. So that way we make a long-term contract. We pay you based on the how many times the plane has gone, basically landed. So you have basically benefit for both. For the buyer, the benefit is the buyer has not to pay upfront. They have to pay as operational cost. While in the case of supplier, the benefit is my contract is made for the next 5 years. That's what we call the innovative approach around. That's a collaborate. Then we have got accommodate around. Guys, I want this supplier for any cost. Let's say I'm in a company like Dell, because I've been working with Dell for a long. So I'm buying my chips from Intel. Naturally, Intel is great to me. I can't afford to annoy the relationship. I will accommodate whatever minor benefit they want around in terms of pricing. Relationship is very important around. I will accommodate them. Then we have compromise in between the two. I can clarify you in the next slide much more. So you can see around, again, same box which we had seen on the competing ones, where we were very tough. I win, you lose. Because the person is a tough personality, and that guy wants, the style is very tough. He says, I want to win at any cost. Avoiding is the one, I lose, you lose. Doesn't want to worry about anything. Collaborating is win-win situation. The one I gave you the concept of innovativeness. So it's a win-win situation. Accommodating means I'm caring for the supplier much more. Reasons could be many. So you win, I lose. And compromising is in between the two, all 4 around. I win some, you win some, I lose some, you lose some. It's a combination of all these things around. So this is where you can see the various styles, various personalities, and various strategies around. And this is where style, I gave it around those 5 boxes. You can easily link up. Some people are warm. They want, guys, I will accommodate you. Some are tough. I want to win. Some are too logical. They go on too much mathematical. some are creative. So logical becomes more like a science. Creative is something combination of science and art. The guy will say, okay, guy, I give you contract for 5 years, the example I was giving you for the airline. And the last is the deal maker. So there are 5 personalities, 5 styles around, you can fix it with those areas around. So the negotiation strategies becomes avoidance strategies. You want to avoid. You want to be competitive. I want to compete. I want to defeat my competitor. It's more like a game, like a cricket game or a football game. We want to win. So the personality, the style of the person who's the negotiator chief is competitive strategy. I want to compete. So it will be basically win-lose. Collaborative strategies. Let's collaborate together. That's the one come win-win strategy. Accommodating. I lose, you win. Because I want to have a good relationship with you. And compromise is the last one you cite in the bottom. Let me clarify a little bit on these. When we talk of competitive strategy, which is win-lose, it's a zero-sum game. They think it's a zero-sum game. Whatever extent one party wins something, the other party loses. The other one is the collaborative approach, where it's integrative bargaining. The pie is extended. It's not a zero-sum game. It's a positive sum. I may gain, may not be on the price. I agree to your price, but then you have to agree on my payment term. You have to agree on my other terms and conditions, on liability clauses around. You have to agree on my delivery date, or even the liquidated damages clause around. So you have to agree on that part around. So it's a positive sum. You gain something, I gain something. So this is how the pie gets extended. It's a win-win situation. Accommodation is all about win-lose. I lose, you win. So you're trying to accommodate. Now we're coming back to this. So after understanding the overview, second we talked about the terms called strategies, styles. Now we're coming to the negotiation cycle around. So the negotiation cycle typically starts mainly with the planning. So the planning is the key thing. I would say plan, plan, plan. Then based on the planning, you start preparations. And then you try to do the whole groundwork, the timelines for negotiation, the ground rules, where this negotiation will happen. Will it happen in my office? Will it happen at the supplier's place? What time I want to do around? There's a big discussion on the timeline also. Should we do it in the evening so that we can drag it later on? Should we do it in the working hours? Should we do it in the evening hours? There's a big discussion on that. Maybe I can discuss later if the time permits. Each party presents their proposals. You try to understand. Proposals are presented, they're discussed. Meetings takes place. Then you try to settle the details around. Contract is written, voted by the group around, and that's what it goes. So planning to negotiate is the very first thing. So when I talk of planning, which is the core of the success, establish your objectives. What do you want to achieve around? What are your goals? If your goal is price, establish other parties' objectives. Try to understand others also. The card is hidden from you. You have your own card to your chest. Supplier has got their own card to their chest. They have been briefed by their bosses around. But still, you have to understand and read it. What are their objectives around? Then the next comes frame negotiation as a joint search for a solution. Now you have understood the objective on both sides. Then you have to frame such that we can have a common solutions. Identify areas of agreements. There may be some areas where we can reach agreement quickly. Again, there's a cultural issues around. If I'm sitting in America, then my first will be let's sort out the bigger issue first, then smaller issue later. But if I'm sitting in an Indian's cultural environments, I'll say let's sort out first simple things. Out of 10, if 2 are difficult things, let me sort out first 7 or 8, which are simple things. Let's to reach an agreement. The tough thing I take last. While in those 7, I build a relationship. And once I build the relationship, those two difficult points can be sorted out. Troubleshoot disagreements, bargain, seek alternatives, introduce trade-offs, agreement and close, summarize and ensure acceptance. Now getting and understanding the fact, this is very, very important around. Understanding your needs, your requirements, knowing the supply market conditions, very important around. Do I have other choices? If I have no other choice, there's only one supplier. The way I was telling you of the Intel chips, you have a different approach. But if I've got 10 suppliers, and I can get the offers from others also, and I can see which is my best offer, best alternatives, knowing your purchasing strategy. I'm sure all of you know about the Peter Krasik model around 2x2 matrix. The procurement strategy has to be known. Is this category falling under the strategy group? Is it falling under the leverage group? Is it falling under the routine item? Is it a bottleneck items? I'll touch this point in the next few slides around. Knowing your desired supplier relationship. What type of relationship you want? Are you looking for a long-term relationship? Are you looking for one-time relationship? Being aware of prices and cost. Very, very important around. Even in your personal thing, when you go and buy something, you can bluff sometime, but you need to know the market. What is the price? Understanding the supplier's company. What type of company it is? Is that company depending on you 80% of the business? Or it is only depending for 1 or 2% of the business on you? Approach would be different. Understanding the people involved. This is very, very important. At the end of the day, when the negotiation happens, it may be between two companies, but one should not forget, it is the people who are behind it. You change the players, the game will change. So it is always the people-centric, that way I would call it out. The balance of powers. The balance of power obviously comes if the supplier is depending on me as a buyer, 80% of their business, I have the power. But if supplier is not depending on me, supplier has got a monopoly, so they have the balance of power. And then we need to do the SWOT analysis around. So all this homework has to be done. Understanding the purchasing context. What is the context of procurement around? The quality issues, quantity needed, the required delivery schedules, the desired delivery locations, required level of service, and at the end of the day, what is your budget? You might be looking for all these components, but how much is your budget? So budget means, again, I'm looking with the total cost of ownership. Now, supply market conditions. How is the overall supply conditions? Technological development, the price trends. As you see nowadays, the price of the oil is going down. Is it affecting some plastic components? Is it affecting other commodities also? So the price trend has to be seen. You can't just say, oh, last year I spent this money, I'm getting 10% discount. No meaning around. If the commodity prices are going down, you need to link with that. Major cost elements, market structures, different supply segments, government policy and regulations. So this factor is very, very important because they could affect the pricing around. Your procurement and supply chain strategies around depends on two factors. We call supply positioning actually. One is the expenditure, how much you have. How much is the risk around? So basically two axes, X and Y. X is about annual expenditure and the Y axis is risk part. If I've got more choices around, my risk is very limited. If one supplier doesn't do, I can go next one. But if I have got very few suppliers, obviously if that supplier doesn't work for me, is not able to deliver me, my risks are much more. So this is where we call the positioning model. So this helps you the focus of your negotiation. Where do you need to focus? I might be buying in my company 10,000 types of items. I might be dealing with 3,000 suppliers. Am I going to do the negotiation same approach for all? One size for all? No. Approach would be different. This is where we're going to talk about in the next slide then. Here you can see the whole positioning model. We have split the whole categories. If you've got a categories, you can put those categories into 4 boxes. If you have not done the categorizations, you can put the commodities into different 4 boxes around using 80-20 approach, routine items, leverage items, critical items, bottleneck items. So when it comes to relationship, when it comes to success, the critical items are very important to you. Your negotiation approach is totally different. When you're dealing with the leverage items, you want to make savings. Your negotiation approach is different. Routine items, low values, might be covering only 8 or 10% of the total cost. You may not be spending too much time on this. Once prices are fixed, you'll put them into the e-catalog and go on that basis. Bottleneck. There may be few nuts and bolts, special items. I remember this one of the airlines, not even airline, there was a basically manufacturers, aeroplane manufacturer. So they had few bolts were not available. The whole assembly line was stuck for months and months. So those could become the bottleneck items. So those bottleneck items, you need a different approach how to deal with the suppliers. Understanding the suppliers, organizations, their technical capabilities, financial situation. If the company is really in a bad shape, they'll accept any price. Market-related capabilities, capacities, management capabilities around, management culture, whatever culture they have. Some companies, they accept everything, but then later on, once they get the business from others, then they ignore your business. The culture may be different. They may not be very professional. Industrial relationship. Supplier's main competitive advantage is what? Is it a cost leadership? Or do they have a special product which differentiates them? Or reliability of the suppliers? Those differentiating factors need to be worked around. Now, understanding the people involved, as I said to you, it is people who make the deal, not the organizations. So the person who's heading the negotiation team, you really need to understand the person's style, what type of person is. Some people are very fast, they are very emotional, they outburst. Some people are very cool. So you need to understand the style of the other people also. Positions. All of you take your positions around. One guy quotes me $500, other guy quotes me $300. Then the buyer says, I can only pay 300. Supplier says I can pay 500. I won't go below this. These are the positions. So these are two extreme positions. Now slowly each one is compromising till you reach the goal. Each one has a goal. Okay, guys, I won't go more than this price. I won't pay more than this price. I won't cut down my price below this because below this is my losses. So you need to work out the position from both sides, from the buyer and the supplier. Now these are based on power and the rights. Sometimes you're a monopoly. You could have the positions around. The goal in a positional negotiation is to persuade. If you're following a position approach, then you would like to persuade. They are win-lose time. Now focus on interest. So we discussed about positions and interest in the beginning. In position, you try to come with a solution to problem. You're very specific, very definite, because the pie is fixed. Basis for arguments. You really need to come with a good logic why you want to change the price. Why do you want to pay less price? Require justification and discussion. Interest is a bigger game. The pie can be expanded. The example I gave you of the airline with the tires. You can expand the pie. Why a particular solution is preferred. Reasons underlying positions. Require explanation, not justification. So in the positions we were doing justification, here we're trying to explain it around and start discussions around. Here we're doing ending of discussion, here it is the starting of a discussion. Possibly new ideas may come up. The balance of power. The power is very important. When we discussed in the beginning on the skill side, so power is also important now. Now let's say the market power, either the supplier is a market leader or the buyer is a market leader. Relative value power, who has got how much share in each one. Financial power, so one has got big muscles, financial muscle, other is a smaller company. Reputation power, time power, reward power, the power of the choice. So all those factors counts a lot around. Now the personal powers could be, I would just, instead of going into all detail, I will just say some people have information power. The person who's trying to lead the negotiation has got tons of information, has got answers for everything, has got complete information, why this price, why not that price. And some people are charismatic. They know very well how to negotiate. This is very well used in our diplomatic world. When the UN, when I used to work, it is used very often. Some people are very charismatic. They can convince others, so they have the wonderful leadership skills around. Target should be relevant, but whatever you're expecting around, the goals, one should be very clear. Is it practical or not? Ambitious, but achievable. Specific, measurable. You can measure it, quantify it. Okay, I'm giving you this, but I'm going to gain here. Impartial. So, and compatible. That's what we're looking around. So there could be best target, there could be worst acceptable targets. The targets could be there. So these targets could be also based on BATNAs, the best alternative. I'll come back later on, I'll explain you around. Yeah. So the targets could be on the area of qualities, could be in the area of delivery, the price, and the payment terms. So you try to spell out all these target, well guys, quality has to be, any rejects to be replaced within 24 hours. So 24 hours become the targets. Worst could be the 3 days. So this is how it is there around. Delivery, I want within 5 days, no more than 10 days. So you're given the basically the benchmark. Now let's take around these concepts around. The buyer has got a price, made up his price, unit price. If I get for $10, this is the best. I'm very happy mode. If I had to pay $15, that's extreme. Walkaway price. I'll say I'm not interested in the business. While in the case of supplier, obviously supplier wants to get 17. In a worse situation, if the guy has come with a mind to do business, $11. So you see the negotiable zone. So that zone is there around. So that means there's a possibility of negotiating. There could be a situation, there's no negotiable zone. So this is where I was touching earlier, the BATNA part, the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. So you have a negotiated agreement, you have a zone for negotiation, but you also have got alternative behind you. You might have done some other bidding exercise. You know very well, if this fails, I have some other benchmark. So you have best alternative, which is better than this. If I'm able to do within my zone of negotiation, fine. If not, I have got other alternatives around. Forces negotiators. And same way like BATNA, we have got a worst alternative also, the BATNA, the worst alternative to a negotiated agreement. So the forces negotiators to realistically evaluate the negotiating strength, prevents blind negotiation. You're not doing blind basis. You've done your homework, and protects from accepting the terms that are unfavorable. This is the least damaging outcomes anticipated if no agreement is reached. So developing again negotiation strategies. Now here again we have the negotiations. You can look around. I'll just skip few things looking at the time. Now come the persuasion techniques. Now persuasion, sometimes we use emotions, sometimes we use logic, sometimes we use bargaining, sometimes we use compromise, and sometimes we use threat also. Threat could be at the gun points or the knife point. So that could also be one of the ways to do the persuasion part. Now the tactics which comes around are very often, sometimes we use silence. We offer something and then we remain silent. We try to see the guys, the body languages of the other ones around. Sometimes we use the word repeat, repeat. We have understood it, but again we say, can you explain this? You will try to put in your own words. So these are the tactics to sometimes to create a nervousness. Because other negotiator will say, what is this? They're not understanding me. So it creates a nervousness. Sometimes we go for a recess. Guys, okay guys, we're having a discussion and we are not reaching anywhere. Let's have a recess around. And then after the recess, then you come back with full of energy, your different ways. You may try to divide and rule. You may try to divide the group which is sitting on the opposite side, on the supplier side. You may try to get some of them as a friend for you. Empathy, one more meeting, deadline, slicing. You may try to decide the whole thing into slices around. Now, the stages of negotiation meeting, as we said around, opening is one, test, propose, bargain, and agree. The body language, I think, is a very crucial. What we say, how we say is very important, and how we appear. Even after talking somebody's, after giving my words, I fold my hands. That means I'm not comfortable. I'm not very open to negotiate further. So that shows the body language around. Some of the one I can do, because this could take the whole day discussions. Avoiding eye contacts. That means the guy has got lack of confidence. Making excessive eye contact. That could be trying to intimidate you. Crossing and uncrossing the legs. Impatience. Keeping legs and arms crossed. Not receptive to your ideas. You are given some thoughts. You're given some price. The guy is not opening the arms. He's sitting still with the closed arms. That means the guy is not receptive to your bargaining positions around. So the tactics, again, I've already covered few, but maybe few more I could touch on it. Sometimes you use the walkout. Guys, okay, we are not reaching anywhere, spend 2 hours, I'm going to walk out. Sometimes people say, guys, my flight is at 10 o'clock, I have to leave. You create a pressure. That tactics could also work sometimes. Don't use emotional outbursts. Sometimes people lose the patience. The moment you lose the patience, you have lost the game. Pretend ignorance. Sometimes you try to become ignorant. And the question comes, why have you come for a negotiation? You don't know the subject. Play for time. Nibble and retrieve. Some people, what they do around is, they get something approval from you, nibble things, then they retreat. So I think that's not the right way to go. But again, people have got different approaches. What works in one culture may not work in another culture. So I'm not saying everything good guy, bad guy, you all know around it. Silence, you know around it. So setting the goals and objectives, be specific. Measurable, which can be measured, achievable, challenging, compatible. Top 10, finally, I want to summarize the discussion what we had. You should have a wonderful skill when we are trying to hire somebody in a very senior level, at the director level or the chief of procurement level. We look at these skills around. And on the skills, we normally put people on the test. We have online tests. If some of you want to do it, it's available. We can help you. We try to analyze the guy is having a problem analysis, how good it is. Can he prepare the whole thing? Active listeners. Is the guy very impatient? Can he be a good listener or not? Emotional control. Can it control the emotions? Verbal communication, how good it is. Collaboration. Can it work as a team person? I just want to be me, me, me. I works as a we. Problem solver. Decision-making ability. Some people can find the solution. Some cannot. They can only find faults, but they can't make decisions. Interpersonal skill, I would say this beats all. Because when you're doing negotiation, you're not doing only with internally, you're also doing externally. You need a wonderful interpersonal skills. How to carry the team, ethics and responsibility. They're very important around ethics. Some people are not ethical. They lose trust. I can beat one day, one game, but next time the supplier knows this guy is not ethical. You lost the trust. You have to be honest, you have to be ethical, and take the responsibility whatever you have said. This is the top, I would say, the skill which are very important now. Well, friend, with this, I want to thank you all. And I know I took a little bit more time, but again, the questions for next 10 minutes, I'm available. So if any question, you can raise your hand, you can do the chatting. So I'm open to that.